Thank you for joining us. I appreciate everyone being here. We're looking forward to this. We have a lot of information today, so we're going to kind of get started. The agenda, a couple of introductions. We'll speak a little bit about our journey on the AI Agent Studio. What did we learn, and what are some, pieces of information about the studio and agentic applications that will help you in your daily lives. And then we'll go through hopefully three demos. One on employee expense cash advance analyst for finance, one for SCM on item structure copying across organizations, and then last but not least, an employee assistant that is a workflow-based agent that we'll be demonstrating today as well. So thanks again for joining us. My name is Gary Marinas. I'm a practice director here at Apps Associates, and I've kind of been a part of this AI enablement process for apps since Oracle introduced it. We have Jay Pradhan with us, who is a senior director in our advisory group and an AI agent expert. And then we have Terry McLaughlin, who's in our HCM team, who has also been heavily involved in our AI agent activity in that HCM track. For those of you that don't know us, we're Apps Associates. I think most people probably do, but since 2002, we've been kind of a trusted advisor. We provide advisory services, transformation services, and managed services, across the board. We're a pure play Oracle SI, and we're excited to have this opportunity. So our journey to the AI Agent Studio, what was it like? So we were asked by Oracle to become an early adopter. So we have a deep partnership with them, and we were able to get early access to the AI Agent Studio and everything that it has within it. Since then, we had an internal AI Pioneer program established internally where we continue to build our foundations, our certifications, which is exceeding 468 or so total, across the board. We've definitely scaled that training across the organization. So we have people chomping at the bit to participate in AI, help their clients, and provide, actionable, agents that can help. In addition to that, we have a pipeline of agents that we're going to be introducing onto the Oracle Marketplace. We already have a couple that have been published, and we have more that will be over the next few releases. And then we've executed several of these one-to-one sessions and one-to-many sessions with our clients, and we're happy to do so. So, what have we learned? When to build an agent? What does agent design look like? Prompt writing. How do we use evaluations like the Metro to help ensure accurateness and correctness and accuracy and latency in our agents? So let's talk about when it makes sense to build an AI agent and when not to. So typically you want to build an agent when the standard functionality of Oracle doesn't support your business goals. You're spending too much time doing something, too many clicks. It's just requiring too many people to be involved when really it should be a little more clear. That agent needs to have a very clear objective. And also, it's also helpful to have an agent when autonomy would benefit that business. So you perform an action, it is doing some thinking on your behalf within your rules, and something that lends itself to a chat-driven, initiation or execution. When do we not build an agent? If Oracle provides functionality that supports that business goal and it's reasonably intuitive and quick, no reason to rebuild the wheel in that case. Typically, we're seeing when there's a lot of data input, like in-screen validation, that may not be, a situation where you want to, build an agent for that. And number three, we're saying a lot of data massaging and processing is needed before writing back to the cloud. But I will say that, given the advances that we're making, across the board with AI Agent Studio and agents and agentic applications, this is becoming a little more blurry as well as we're able to upload files into, our agents. What do we go through when we design a single agent? Let's map out that agent's role in the organization. Where does it fit in your org chart? What task is it going to do? Literally build out a flow chart, diagram those steps. And with workflow, we can make it deterministic. So let's design the outcome. So, what's our input? What do we expect our output to be? Um, you know, we can be a lot more deterministic now. Build that agent in small steps. Start small, identify the business objects, the tools, build in smart sections, small sections, test it and expand it as each piece starts working along the way. And then define the test criteria as you go along. So this is almost like you know, uh, a little build cycle where you're gonna, kind of initiate, design, test, build, QA, and then, implement. And Oracle's starting to provide tools that are really going to be exceptional at providing that, accuracy and correctness and latency evaluation. In the beginning, so we've been through about four releases of the AI Agent Studio, and in the beginning, on the first day, everything was about prompt writing. It is so much more than that now, but we have to talk about prompts because we're going to be putting LLMs within our workflows, within our worker agents and our supervisor agents. So prompts are as much of an art as they are a science. Descriptions matter. You need to provide context. So when we're talking in our prompts, we'll have descriptions of tools, descriptions of the agents. What is the supervisor going to do? We need to, make sure and provide good, descriptions. Iterate, reiterate. Like I mentioned, take it in bite-sized chunks. Start building your prompt, add on to it. Little things can change a prompt, spaces, periods, where it's at in the flow of the prompt. So, and it's okay to use an LLM to support your prompt writing efforts. In fact, Oracle has given us in the AI Agent Studio a way to ask an agent what we should do to help us build our agent. So they're really helping us to finesse that process along the way. Um, I'll talk about Metro. This is metrics, evaluation, tracing, reporting, and observability. This is going to allow us to track our performance insights. Make sure that you have specific quality bars for response so that you didn't build an agent that is consuming an excessive amount of tokens. So we would want to tweak our workflow or our LLM, I mean our prompt to make sure that we're within the confines of what is considered an acceptable response time. It allows you to view your errors and then helps you to fine tune those agents, to deliver exactly what you're looking for, down the line. So I wanted to bring up the fact that workflow agents are one of the latest and greatest things. And then actually, we're going to talk about agentic applications in a minute as well. But workflow agents to me was a huge breakthrough for Oracle in the AI Agent Studio because when we were looking at worker agents and supervisor agents, um, it could plan and it could give you dynamic selection and it could give you output, but some of it was, you're using an LLM and you're relying on that LLM to be correct 100% of the time. With workflow agents, you actually have deterministic output. So we've added the ability to put logic-based automation in there, fixed control flows, if-then loops, switches, error handling and reasoning. So the LLM can take your input and, have it sent down a particular path. And if you hit an exception in that path, it can send emails and you can provide responses to update the things that it outputs. So it is a very big change, understanding, interpreting your intent, adapting, the LLM, and then consulting humans more aggressively than we would have before in the standard worker agents or supervisor agents. So this is within, 2 to 3 releases that we've seen this significant uptick in what Oracle is providing. Um, so if you look at, you're thinking, okay, so they've introduced workflow. Like, so what's the difference between a workflow we would have built in EBS, back in the old days, and you know, how does that compare to like what a workflow agent does? So, workflow is predefined, fixed steps, and with this you can have contextual reasoning. Go figure out what my unit of measure is. Go figure out who my customer is. Routing. All right, if it's like this, we need to go to person A in the organization. If it's another way, we need to go to person B, or we need to update this uh, part of an object, or we need to query this one. You can have parallels, branches, subflows. We can have workflow agents call other workflows and other, LLMs. So it's a really good, opportunity. There's a lot of repair loops, self-correction, and then always, consulting humans when that's needed. So everything else was a little more coded and straightforward on the traditional workflows where workflow agents are going to be, while they're still deterministic, they're going to think for themselves and give you suggestions of repair. I'm going to jump through this real quick. What are the building blocks of workflow agents? AI nodes where you call an agent, a workflow, or a document. Um, Logic nodes where we're setting variables, parsing it. It's a way more technical now than it was in the beginning. Data nodes, business objects, and then I talked about the workflow control nodes, switching, looping, parallel, waiting. So you can actually have the agent wait until it takes an action. So you can have it wait up to 60 minutes before it takes the next step. And then, human in loops always been there, but we're at a different level now. We're able to send emails, put particular people in. It's way better. And then communication nodes where it's emailing, in-app alerts, escalation messaging. So they've really taken it to the next step here with the workflow agent blocks. It's very exciting, and there's a lot of opportunities for that. We're still following all the same security models, right? So uh, you have your role-based data access. It has built-in dynamic, grounding, in addition to the guardrails that you put into your prompts. So there's a lot of opportunity here. It is all built, on top of the OCI infrastructure. So, from a security standpoint, I can't just log in and do whatever I want with an agent. I have to have the right access. It's going to check. It's not going to let me have toxic language in there, things like that. So most of that stuff is built in to the application. You don't have to, you know, add it as an additional thing into your agent. Real quickly, so they have what they use Trap when we're talking to third-party REST services. So if you have an agent that needs to exit, Oracle and contact a third-party REST service, we use Trap token relay and proxy there. So I'll skim through that. Pre-built templates and tools. Okay, so Oracle comes as of 26A, there were 220 pre-built templates shipped with that studio. That's a lot of embedded, AI that is at your fingertips to use today. And we can also use the AI Agent Studio to build, obviously, our custom agent teams, our supervisor agents, our workflow agents in there. So, they're investing a lot. And that 220 pre-built templates, that doesn't include the other uh, types of AI that are available, in the application, the generative AI where it's creating descriptions for you and giving you insights into documentation like a PO, summarization or within sourcing, suggesting, a particular set of suppliers. So that stuff is not included in this 220. These are actual AI agents that you have at your fingertips to implement, within your existing, application. What's coming up? So we're at 26A and 26B is about to release. And Oracle made the announcement, recently that they're going to have agentic applications. But along with that, we're going to have continued, increase in evaluation and monitoring. Um, they're going to have an agentic apps builder available eventually. So I'll show you how the foundations of the agentic applications work. But it all kind of goes back to that AI agent and where you're going to use that in the application. Memory, speech, there's so much that's going to happen in the next couple of releases. It's really good, and you'll be able to do so much more with your business. So, it Open World in London, they came out with the agentic applications, and this is an opportunity to turn our objectives into outcomes with these applications that can anticipate where you can take actions and coordinate those actions right from a screen in your system. This is really going to be a game changer in how we look at Oracle Fusion and how we execute on a daily basis. So if we look at the kind of the timeline of what Oracle's done, so way back last June, maybe a little before that, we had AI agents. Then they came out with the AI Agent Studio in the marketplace, which, we have stuff on the marketplace. Our partners are putting, agents out there for you to use. Then they came out with the AI workflows, which I went through, and then they came out with agentic applications. So They're going to provide within 26B 22 brand new agentic applications. Um, so these agentic applications are going to be driven by outcomes. Like, what's the business basis? Are you working in negotiations? Do you have a sales order dashboard? They're going to have dynamic workflows built in, and it's for execution, right? And it's all within your application. It's not an additional thing you need to load in and build. It's going to be there and be available for you. And it's always specially powered by your agents, your teams of specialized agents that understand the context of what you're doing in this end-to-end process. So when you look at it, it's a system of record and a system of outcomes all in one place, right? So we have our traditional applications like ERP, HCM, our selling apps. And then we have the AI Agent Studio in there that'll be combined with our application builder, our AI agents, to have a complete agentic application. And this is all still built on our OCI data platform. Um, and so they're going to have 22 of these across the board in ERP, HCM, CX. One example of that is if you look at this, there is a sales order command center that's going to be introduced. And if you'll see here, over here, it's saying, hey, we're notifying you that you have these exceptions. And if you'll notice here, there's a view details on action. If you were to click on that view details, you would have the opportunity to actually take what the system is suggesting you do to fix this exception and apply it right from the next screen. So you're not switching out of this command center and going over to OM, opening up your sales order and fixing the price or fixing the ship to or customer information. You're actually taking action right from a single screen where you can view exactly what's happening there. So this is really exciting because this thing is going to use agents. It's going to make suggestions to you. You're going to take those actions, and workflows will drive that outcome. Um, okay, so where am I at here? All right, so it's about 12:20. So yeah, so that is our overview of kind of the AI Agent Studio, the history of where apps has been and where Oracle has been and going. And I think, the next thing we want to do is we want to have some demos for you guys. That's really what this is about. Before I get into that, though, I think that it would be good just to for a couple of seconds to talk about pricing, the way that Oracle is pricing it. So I don't have a slide on that because Oracle just made a pretty big announcement about how they're changing the pricing on the AI agents. So initially, when this came out, you were getting all of the embedded agentic, predictive, and generative AI that Oracle had out of the box pretty much for free or as a part of the application. And anything you wanted to do from a custom perspective was going to trigger a kind of a unique license on a per person, per agent style basis. Oracle recently announced, and we're still building, they haven't put out any like official documentation, but they definitely announced that they're going to change the way that they do this pricing, and we're not going to be penalized any longer for creating custom agents. This is huge because I felt like it was a little bit of a barrier to entry for some of our clients that wanted to have unique cases that they wanted to build beyond what Oracle had provided. So, what does that mean? They're not going to charge us for custom agents. What that means is they're going to move to a usage-based model, which is very exciting. They're going to implement something called an AU, which is very similar to a token, right? So it's some monetary version for them where as you're executing an agent, they look at the number of tokens and assimilate that into what's called an AU, which is a unit of measure for them on AI usage. If you use the standard LLM that Oracle provides, the out-of-the-box basic, LLM, and you build an agent custom and you implement that agent, the chances are you're going to have no additional, cost on that. Oracle is going to provide you with 20,000 units, AU units at this point, and then you can buy incremental more units as you get agents that are more robust or using more of a pipeline of those AUs. So this is very exciting because it's kind of a pay-as-you-play model, and it makes the cost a little variable now, meaning if you have more usage one month and you exceed that 20,000 units, okay, so then you'll see a bill from them. Um, However, I've seen some math floating around about how this works, and it is very promising and a lot less expensive based on everything we're seeing right now. So obviously we have to rely on Oracle, for the finalities on that, but this is huge because now we can build custom agents and implement them without risk of being triggered for, a custom license from the get-go. One gotcha. They still will have a user-based model, and if you want to go that route, you can, but that does not include the AI agentic applications as it stands right now. So you have to go with the usage model if you want to use the AI agentic applications in the future. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and start kicking off these demos. We're going to do three demonstrations today. The first one is the employee expense cash advance analyst. This is a worker agent that does several things regarding cash advance. Then we'll jump into the SCM version of the item structure copy across multiple orgs. And then we'll, last but not least, have an employee assistant demonstration that is based on deterministic workflow. And Terry's also going to jump into the Metro application to kind of show you how that works. All right, so this is the expense cash advance analyst asking, a couple of questions here, and I want to display all of my expense and cash advance policies here. So I just asked the agent to do that, and it's going out and querying documentation that I have in the system to provide that answer for this person. And it should jump in here in just a second. All right, so it comes back and it gives, all of that information and now tells you those policies. And you might say, hey, well, look, I want to see all of my cash advances. So this is looking at this person number 8862, and it's saying, hey, go find all of that person's cash advance. So it's going to pull this up in just 1 second. All right. So it pulls up all those cash advance numbers. And you can even go one step further and say, so all the ones related to my tolls. How many cash advances have I had on that? So it should respond with my toll charges and limit that list. So I've done two things here. One, I've relied on a policy, which is a RAG document. And secondarily, I've relied on the application to give me information. And now I actually am going to perform an update on one of these cash advances. So I've retrieved information from policy, singular documents. I've gone out into the application and found the cash advances that are my person. And now I'm actually performing an update to a particular cash advance. So now it's saying, hey, how should I update it? Want to increase that amount or decrease it? And this is all within a chatbot. And if you look at what Oracle's doing, they're going to give you the ability to enable these within Teams. So you don't necessarily have to log into Oracle, different ways to access your agents. So we're going to update this to $19 here, expensive tolls. And then I've asked it to create my cash advance. there it goes. So it gave me that output. Now, lastly, so she's creating that. So this is retrieving information, taking action, and then in just a second, we're going to demonstrate how this will be secure in the sense that I wouldn't be able to go do this on behalf of Jay, per se. So this particular agent, we're logged in as a generic user that we set up for this, but they're going to ask for my cash advance details, which I don't have any. So it should, well, I don't have any, and they should not be able to access it. So it's going to respond in a second. There you go. Unable to retrieve as Gary. So that jumped a little fast. I'm going to pull that back here just one sec. So right here it says unable to retrieve for Gary Marinas. That's because this agent actually uses the user session to make sure that they can't access anybody else's information. So this is a very important piece of the puzzle here. So that is the first demo we're going to do. I'm going to jump in real quick and just show you a little background on this agent. This was a worker agent. And I'll go down here. Go to my agent studio. Go to my agent teams. And if I go take a look at this agent, I look at the details of it. This is a worker agent, not very complex. I'm using 6 tools throughout the process. I'm going to get the user, embedded some policies in there, and then I have some tools below that to uh, check the cash advance, get the cash advance, update the cash advance. And then if I look at this, we talked about prompts earlier, and so a very straightforward prompt that was written and given guidelines. This is written in plain English language, very easy to do in one sense. So yeah, so that's my sample there of the AI Agent Studio, and I will stop sharing here, and we're going to punt this over to Jay, and he's going to run through another agent on the item copy.
Thank you, Gary. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Let me know when you can see it. Can you see my Oracle screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'll be demonstrating an AI agent that actually does a copy of an item structure. One of the pain points that we came across with one of our clients was they copy items. And when they copy items, everything from the original item gets copied over, but the item structure gets copied over only from the master org to master org. If there are item structures underneath the child organization's items, those don't get copied over. So Oracle will create a copy of an item. It will even do the org assignments. If you have 30 or 40 organizations, when you copy your item, the copied item can be assigned to multiple organizations in one step, but those org items won't have item structures. So in order to copy that, you have to go to each individual org and create a copy, which could be time consuming. And what we do here is this agent is designed to make that process quick and easy. So if you see here, this item number is a copied item. It has an item structure underneath the master org. You can see that here. There is a small item structure called primary. And then under the copied org item, not the master item, there is no item structure. So we are going to use the Agent Studio and the AI agent to do this. We have this agent available in the marketplace if you choose to take a look at it and try it for your own systems use. It should be some, yeah. So it's available here if you want to create a copy of it and use it in your own environment. I'm going to quickly demo how this would work. So if I go to agent teams, you have to create a copy in your own network of teams. So if I go here and look for my agent team, here it is. So real quick, this agent is built with a prompt and 6 tools. The tools do a bunch of things, including not just copying the agent, which is the last step, but it also does a lot of validation and due diligence. When you copy an item, you need to make sure that the target organization has the item number that exists, the parent item, as well as the component item numbers. You also have to retrieve the internal org IDs and item IDs that are behind the scenes in the database so that you can use them again to make the next API call. So overall, the core logic of this this agent exists in the prompt. The prompt tells the agent what to do. It's like the standard operating procedure for the agent. But even with the prompt, you still need something or some tools to read and write from the database in Fusion, and that's where the tools come in. So these 6 tools that are described here, you can go deeper into the tools and you can import this agent yourself in your own environment. And these tools, most of them are based on business objects, which are your gateway to the REST API calls. So although 95% of the work is writing an English language prompt, there is still some cursory or basic knowledge of REST API calls that's required. The learning curve is not very long. I was able to learn it within a couple of days. You might want to install Postman to practice out these business objects and these tools yourself. So I'm going to run this agent and show you how it works. So I'm going to just first say I want to copy an item structure. This is my opening prompt to sort of wake it up and give me directions on how to use it. So when I do that, the system is going to check the agent's prompt, bounce it against the LLM, and give me directions on what's the best way and what to expect from this agent. Now, a lot of agents that you build would probably need something like this. Sometimes when you build an agent and release it for general use to your users, you may want to have the initial pre-built question, something like this, in it so that people get directions. So yeah, so agent is telling me it made a couple of LLM calls. The system also tells you how many tokens it used. And this is something that is visible in the developer view, not in the end user view. So this yellow box that you see is visible in the agent studio itself. But when you release this agent in the explorer view, you should not be seeing this yellow box because the users don't need to see all the behind the scenes sausage making. So this is my direction. I'm going to give it a clear direction to copy item structure for item. This is the item. We are going to copy this item number here. So we have a item structure in the master org, but not the child org. So we are going to ask the agent to do that. Um, if all prerequisites are met, just copy and don't ask too many follow-up questions. Now, the reason I'm doing this is in the interest of time, I don't want the agent to do too much checking and too many questions, answers, and back and forth. Sometimes what happens is as these LLMs improve, they get more careful in terms of not accidentally making changes to the system and it will ask me too many questions that, hey, this is what I'm about to do. Are you sure you want to move forward? You can force that human in the loop with a checkbox in the agent, which I haven't done for this agent. But if you are not sure that the LLM will do that, you can always have a checkbox that says, okay, always ask me before you make an update. That way, tools or data updates are not done before you approve it manually. But here, if you can see, it's making multiple calls to the LLM. It's also calling these tools to check, get the internal IDs, to check if the components exist, if the components are also part of the target organization. And so it's going to take a few seconds, but it's going to. So this is the last um, tool call. It probably found everything to be valid and available. It found all the prerequisites that were met, and it's going to create the item structure finally. So behind the scenes, it's also going to generate a summary of what it did, what were the internal item structure ID numbers, what was the process, what was the due diligence and prerequisite checks that it did. So that can also be controlled by your prompt, how you want the agent to report back to you. Um, so in a few seconds, when that is done, we are going to requery this item, and then we should be able to see um, the item structure. Okay, so the agent is telling me it's done. It has copied an item structure named primary. These are the build sequence ID or the internal IDs. These are the components, and it is done. So it says, do you want me to copy other structures from this item or copy this structure to additional destination organizations? So if I had 20 or 25 inventory orgs, I can say, yeah, copy them to all of them, or I can say copy them to A, B, and C inventory orgs, and it will do that really quickly. So it's conversational, it's intuitive, and it will save a lot of time in doing repetitive, tedious work. So if I go here and look at my Spring organization, where I did not have an item structure before, I now do have an item structure. So I'm going to stop here. I'm happy to answer any questions towards the end and hand over the the next demo to, is it Terry or, yeah, Terry.
Yep. We're
Sure.
going to Terry.
Thanks, Jay. There we go. Okay. Thanks, Jay, for your demos. So now I'm going to show a couple things. I'm going to show a workflow agent, and I'm also going to demo the Metro tool. So let me share my screen. So I'm going to run it like Jay did, or like Gary did, I think. I'm going to run it from the me. This is from, if you remember Oracle as me, my team, my client groups, etc. So I'm going to run this from me, and then I'm going to hop over like Jay did and run it in the developer mode so you can see what's going on. Now, one thing, this agent does four things. It goes to a RAG document and which has company policies. It provides deep links for employees for tasks that aren't normally done or not done frequently. And then it also goes out and pulls your information, your personal information, and your employment information, such as your business unit or your legal entity. Now, one thing it will not do because of Oracle security, I cannot go out and query other people's information. So I can only query my own information. So the first thing I'm going to do is I think it was Gary that mentioned the LLM. So notice that there's no pre-questions populated. This is a workflow agent, and they don't have that yet. But what you can do is, what does this agent do? And it's going to the LLM to answer this question, and it's looking at the agent itself and the description I put in it. So that's what it's doing. Now I'm going to ask it, what is my person number? This one person number. Okay, this one is going against the tables. And what I've noticed when I started doing the workflow agents, look how quick that is. It was a lot slower not using a workflow agent, and it could have been my prompts, not 100% sure why. I never went back and looked at the monitoring to see what the whole reason was. The next thing I'm going to do, just to go against the employment tables, the assignment tables, I'm just going to ask, what is my business unit? I guess I could have misspelled. It's pretty good about misspellings. And it gives me my business unit. I'm going to ask two more questions. One is, I want to update my bank. I switch banks. People don't do that, but maybe once every, 5 years, 20 years, whatever. And so I can't remember how to do it in Oracle, but I want my paycheck to come to my new bank. So what this is doing, it's calling the deep link tool, and it's going to take me to payment methods. So you can change your bank accounts here. And if I click on the link, it's taking me to my payment methods. I actually don't have any in here right now, so I can add a new one. We close this and go back over one more question. So it does have a company policy document. So one of the questions that is for all employees is, when do we get raises? Especially for new employees. In fact, even myself, when I started this job, when do we get raises? I didn't know. So this is pretty handy. It has, you can put what's the number for the help desk, where do I go when there's bad weather, all sorts of things in here. So you can see, according to the company policies, raises are effective April 1st. Let's go under the hood and look at what we're doing. One thing that Gary mentioned that is important, if you're like me, you don't read directions, you try to put things together and then go back and read directions when it doesn't work. So that's kind of what I was doing with this assistant. You can see V4. What I didn't draw it out on paper. And so I have V1, 2, and 3 that are vastly different. Once I drew this out on paper, it made sense. It runs quicker. It's more accurate, just all sorts of things. This is how a workflow agent looks. So this one, I'm just, getting the user intent. What's the question? I'm getting some personal information. And the reason I'm getting that is to make sure that Oracle knows who's asking these questions. And if I ask about another employee, it's gonna respect security and not give me those answers. And then with workflow, you can see I can now use a switch statement. And I can determine what the user intent is. It makes it so much quicker. I can see what the user intent is and then give the results. Now, I also want to talk about Metro. If you're developing agents and you're not using Metro, you should. And let me show you why. First of all, you're seeing this one as an API error. When you do an evaluation run, I guess let me take a step back because you need to see what my evaluation is. Metro is simply, you put in questions and answers that that you would assume it would come, you would get. Now, I personally, ran it, typed in the answers I got, they look good to me, and I can import these. You can import these into Metro from actually when you run it as a developer. You can report the questions into Metro. So let me do a cancel. And I have ran this agent several times, and you can see some of the dates that I've run it, some of the differences. So you can see this one had a latency of 8.01. The suggested latency is under 10. The lower the number, the better. And then you can also see the correctness. And we could go in and figure out why these why is this one taking so long? And why is this one only 0.9 as in one? And then we have our friend, this API error. Just a trick, because when I first saw this, I'm like, oh my gosh. And when you click in the evaluation, you don't understand what's going on. If you get an API error, the reason is what I've noticed is you're running it in draft mode, not in published mode. So I have never gotten that error where that wasn't the case. So let me cancel out of that. Let's drill down into one of these. Let's see. Let's look at this one. It's 0.9 as my correctness, and then my latency is 4.93 seconds. So if I'm looking to increase or lower the latency and increase the correctness, you can go in here and do view run results. So if I notice here, one of my questions is taking a lot longer than all of the rest. And in fact, I looked at some of my other runs, and it was the same thing. This was always the longest one. It is always the longest one. So that's So that's telling me that I need to change my prompt or go in and make sure there's a couple things it's telling me. 9 times out of 10, you need to change your prompt. However, it could be the reg document itself isn't matching what I put in here, which I think in this instance is the case because because it's not returning the right thing and it's taking a long time. I think in the reg document, in fact, I can tell you why I think that. The reg document, I have a nice pretty table, and this isn't a nice pretty table. So that's why it's taking so long to get the answer like this. And in my first iteration, I made it a table, and if I switch that, it will probably increase. Okay, now let's look at correctness. What's right and what's wrong? So if I look at some of these questions that are incorrect, let's look at this one. It's 0.4, it's not 1, it's not even above 0.9. But the reason is my answer right here, your primary phone number with area code, here's your number with the area code. This is just simple, merely a different format. So it says it's not fully correct, but you can accept the exact match. And you can go on down through these and correct your prompts or correct your tools or whatever you need to do. I will say, and Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, Gary or Jay, the Oracle recommends, and I can show you where you set this up. Oracle recommends, let me go back. You cancel. Oracle recommends that your latency is under 10 and your correctness is over 0.8. And so to get these numbers to come up where, over 10 is red and under 0.8 is red, the only thing you need to do is you can go in here and view and edit your evaluation and change the metrics. It doesn't, it looks like Oracle's recommending 0.85 because I know I did what they're recommending. It doesn't default to these two numbers. I think it defaults to 20 and I think it's 0.5 even, but I can't say for sure. But you'll want to come in here and change your thresholds just to make sure, especially if you're releasing it, just to make sure it's fast and accurate. So I've found Metro very, very beneficial. So the agent just doesn't churn and churn. All right. And with that,
Do we have any questions at the moment?
none in the chat that I see, but maybe.
Well, we appreciate you guys attending today. Definitely contact us if you have any questions about your AI journey. We have several ways that we can help you. We can come out and perform a workshop for your Oracle Fusion applications and AI. We can, help you implement AI agents and contact us for anything that we can help you with here.